was a Wednesday evening when I first noticed him lurking in the shadows of my reflection. I had just returned home from work, tired and ready to unwind after a long day. My apartment was small, a one-bedroom space with peeling paint and outdated furniture, but it was mine. I had decorated it with my favorite books, plants, and photographs of friends, trying to create a cozy atmosphere. As I entered, the familiar scent of the candles I had lit earlier greeted me, and I felt a small sense of comfort wash over me. I tossed my bag on the kitchen table and made my way to the bathroom. The light flickered slightly as I turned it on, and I caught a glimpse of myself in the mirror. My hair was a mess, and I had bags under my eyes from lack of sleep. I leaned in closer to splash some water on my face, trying to shake off the exhaustion. But as I did, I noticed something strange in the corner of the mirror, a fleeting shadow that seemed to shift just out of sight. I blinked, convinced it was just my imagination, but the moment lingered in my mind. I shrugged it off, attributing it to fatigue. I finished washing my face and made my way to the living room to pour myself a glass of wine, ready to relax and forget about the day's stresses. As I settled onto the couch, I turned on the television. The usual chatter of the news anchors filled the room, but I found it hard to focus. The unsettling feeling from earlier crept back in. I glanced toward the bathroom mirror, half expecting to see something lurking behind me. But there was nothing, just my reflection staring back at me, illuminated by the soft glow of the bathroom light. That night, I struggled to sleep. My mind raced with thoughts, but every time I closed my eyes, the image of that fleeting shadow haunted me. I got out of bed several times, checking the bathroom and the hallway, convincing myself it was nothing. But deep down, I knew something wasn't right. The following day at work, I found it difficult to concentrate. I was a graphic designer, and my tasks required a level of focus that I couldn't muster. My colleague Rachel noticed my distraction. "Hey, are you okay? You seem a bit out of it," she asked, concern etched on her face. "I didn't sleep well last night," I replied, forcing a smile. "Just a little stressed about some projects." She nodded but didn't press further. I appreciated her concern, but I didn't want to burden her with my irrational fears. Yet the feeling of being watched nagged at me. I spent the day glancing over my shoulder, half expecting to see someone standing behind me. When I returned home that evening, I hesitated before entering my apartment. I took a deep breath and pushed the door open. The familiar scent of my candles welcomed me, but the sense of unease was still there. I decided to take a shower, hoping it would wash away the tension. As I stood under the warm water, I felt a moment of relief. The steam filled the bathroom, and I closed my eyes, letting the water cascade over me. But when I opened them and glanced at the mirror, my heart dropped. The foggy glass revealed a figure standing behind me, someone tall and shadowy, almost indistinct. My breath caught in my throat. I turned quickly, but the bathroom was empty. Just me, alone with my pounding heart. I leaned against the cool tiles, trying to calm myself. "It's just the steam," I whispered, convincing myself. "There's no one here." But as I dried off, the shadow lingered in my mind. That night, I decided to call Rachel, hoping to distract myself. "Hey, it's me. Can I come over?" I asked, my voice shaky. "Of course, come on over," she replied cheerfully. I arrived at her apartment within 15 minutes. Rachel welcomed me with a warm hug, sensing my unease. "You look like you've seen a ghost," she joked lightly, trying to lighten the mood. "Just feeling a bit off lately," I admitted, sitting on her couch. We talked for hours, discussing everything from work to our favorite movies. But even in the warmth of her company, I felt that creeping sense of dread. I kept glancing at the door, half expecting someone to come in. Eventually, I headed home, feeling slightly better but still haunted by the feeling that something was wrong. As I unlocked my door, I took a deep breath and stepped inside. I turned on the lights, and the cozy glow of my living room felt oddly reassuring. That night, I tried to distract myself by watching a movie, but I couldn't shake the feeling of unease. I glanced at the bathroom door, half expecting it to open on its own. Each creak of the floorboards seemed amplified in the silence. Eventually, exhaustion overtook me, and I fell into a restless sleep. The next day was a blur of work and tension. I couldn't shake the sensation of being watched, and it was beginning to affect my work. Rachel offered to join me for lunch, hoping to lift my spirits. As we sat in the small cafe down the street, I shared my experience. "I don't know, Rachel," I said, my voice shaking. "It feels like there's something in my apartment. I can't explain it, but it's making me feel crazy." Rachel listened intently, her brow furrowed in concern. "Maybe you should consider getting out for a while, like a weekend trip. It might help clear your head," she suggested. The idea sounded appealing, but I didn't want to run away from my own home. I shrugged it off, telling her I'd think about it. That night, I returned home determined to confront my fears. I lit candles around the apartment, creating a warm and inviting atmosphere. I planned to take a long bath and relax, hoping to dispel the lingering dread. As I settled into the warm water, I closed my eyes and let out a sigh of relief. But just as I began to relax, I heard a noise, soft, almost like a whisper. My heart raced, and I opened my eyes, scanning the bathroom. The shadows danced along the walls, but nothing seemed out of place. "Get a grip," I told myself. "It's just your imagination." But the whispers persisted, faint and unintelligible. I quickly finished my bath and dried off, feeling more anxious than ever. I stepped into my bedroom, my heart pounding, and caught a glimpse of myself in the mirror. The reflection was distorted, and for a brief moment, I could have sworn I saw that shadowy figure behind me again. I spun around, ready to confront whatever it was, but once again, the room was empty. I was alone, or at least I thought I was. The next morning, I woke up with a sense of dread still lingering. I couldn't ignore the feeling any longer. I grabbed my phone and decided to call a therapist I had been considering. "I need help," I said when they answered. "I think I'm losing my mind." After a few sessions, I learned that the stress of my job and my isolation could be manifesting in my perception of reality. I was experiencing heightened anxiety, which could explain the shadows and whispers. I felt relieved to have a name for my experience, but the unease didn't dissipate entirely. I continued my routine, but the sense of dread still loomed over me. I began documenting my feelings in a journal, hoping to make sense of the strange occurrences. Each entry revealed my fear and worries, but it also became a form of catharsis. I was determined to confront whatever was haunting me. One evening, I decided to film a short video for my friends, trying to capture the strange happenings in my apartment. "If anyone sees this, know that I'm okay. Just dealing with some weird stuff," I said, forcing a laugh. As I reviewed the footage, I felt a chill run down my spine. In the corner of the frame, I caught a glimpse of that shadow again. My heart raced as I paused the video, staring at the screen. "What is happening?" I whispered to myself. The next morning, I showed Rachel the footage. She watched intently, her expression shifting from concern to disbelief. "That's creepy," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Are you sure it's not just a trick of the light?" I shook my head. "I don't think so. Feels too real. I need to figure this out." We decided to investigate together. Armed with my phone and a flashlight, we explored every corner of my apartment, searching for any sign of the source of my fear. We checked the closets, peered behind furniture, and even looked under the bed. But nothing seemed out of the ordinary. As we stood in the bathroom, I glanced at the mirror. "I feel like whatever it is, it's tied to this mirror," I said, running my fingers along the edge. Rachel stepped closer, examining the glass. "Maybe it's just reflecting your anxiety," she suggested, trying to stay positive. I nodded, but deep down, I felt something unsettling. "I think I need to get rid of it," I said. That evening, After Rachel left, I stood in front of the mirror, contemplating my decision. I took a deep breath and grabbed my phone. "I'm going to do it," I said, recording myself one last time. This is me saying goodbye to whatever is haunting me. With determination, I grabbed the mirror and dragged it to the curb. I felt a strange sense of relief as I watched it sit there. A heavy weight lifted from my shoulders. I turned back to my apartment, ready to embrace a fresh start. The following days felt different, lighter. I focused on self-care, cleaning my apartment, and spending time with friends. The whispers faded, and the shadows that had once lurked in the corners seemed to vanish. But one night, as I prepared for bed, I caught a glimpse of something out of the corner of my eye. I froze, my heart racing. I turned slowly, half expecting to see that shadow again. But there was nothing, just the dim light of my bedside lamp illuminating the room. I felt a wave of relief wash over me. "I'm okay," I whispered, convincing myself. As I settled into bed, I closed my eyes, allowing the darkness to envelop me. I had faced my fears, and I was determined to move forward, leaving behind the man in the mirror. I drifted into a peaceful sleep, free from the weight of my past. In the weeks that followed, I embraced a new routine, focusing on my mental health and surrounding myself with positivity. I no longer felt the shadow lurking behind me. I learned to appreciate the light in my life, and in doing so, I found strength in my vulnerability. The man in the mirror was gone, but I realized that the true journey was within myself. I had faced my fears and emerged stronger, ready to take on whatever life had in store for me. The reflection I saw now was one of resilience, hope, and the promise of a brighter tomorrow.